My beloved child, before you move on, before your mind rushes toward the next distraction, before the noise of this day pulls you away once again, I need you to slow down for just a moment and listen carefully. There is a reason your eyes have landed here. There is a reason your attention paused when it could have continued scrolling. There is a reason you felt something inside you become still, even if only for a second. You may think this is ordinary. You may think this is just another message appearing in front of you among thousands of others. But deep within your heart, there is a part of you that already senses that this moment feels different. That feeling is not an accident. That quiet pull you cannot explain is not random. I know how quickly life moves around you. I know how many voices compete for your attention every single day. I know how many things demand your focus, your energy, your emotions, and your strength. Yet somehow, out of all the moments in your day, you are here now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not at some other hour, right now. Timing matters more than you realize. There are moments that pass through your life like ordinary minutes, and then there are moments that carry something deeper. Moments that arrive carrying purpose. Moments that arrive carrying answers. Moments that arrive carrying reminders your soul desperately needed. This is one of those moments. I know you have questions. Questions you have not spoken out loud. Questions you have carried quietly inside your heart. You have wondered if I still see you. You have wondered if your prayers have reached me. You have wondered if the waiting has meaning. You have wondered if the disappointments, the delays, and the unexpected turns have somehow pulled you away from the future you hoped for. And because you have carried these questions for so long, part of you has become tired. Part of you has stopped expecting surprises. Part of you has learned to protect itself from disappointment. But my child, I want you to hear me clearly. I have not forgotten you. I have not overlooked you. I have not lost sight of your journey for even a single moment. While you were wondering where I was watching over every step. While you were trying to understand the path ahead, I was already standing in your tomorrow. While you were carrying concerns that seemed too heavy, I was quietly holding things together in ways you could not see. There is something important I need you to understand today. Not every divine appointment arrives with thunder. Not every answer arrives in a dramatic way. Sometimes I speak through gentle moments. Sometimes I reach you through unexpected pauses. Sometimes I place a message before you because your heart is finally ready to hear what it could not hear before. You may not fully understand why this moment feels significant. You may not yet see the larger picture. That is all right. You do not need to understand everything right now. You only need to remain open. You only need to allow yourself to listen. Because what I am doing in your life often begins long before you recognize it. Seeds begin growing beneath the soil before anyone sees the first sign of life. Dawn begins before the sun appears above the horizon. Healing begins before pain completely leaves the heart. In the same way, many things I have been doing for you have been happening beneath the surface, quietly, faithfully, patiently. And today I am inviting you to pay attention, not because I want to frighten you, not because I want to pressure you, but because I love you too much to let you miss what your soul has been longing for. There is a reason you are here. There is a reason this moment found you. There is a reason your heart is listening right now. I arranged this encounter with care. I saw the weariness you tried to hide. I saw the questions you carried into the night. I saw the moments when you felt unseen. And because I saw all of it, I chose this moment to draw near. So take a deep breath, my child. Let the noise settle. Let your heart become still. You do not have to have all the answers right now. You do not have to carry every burden by yourself. You do not have to force your way forward. Simply stay here with me for a little while longer. Because this moment is not random. This timing is not accidental. There is a reason you are here. There is a reason I called your attention. And before this journey is finished, you will begin to understand that what appeared to be an ordinary moment was actually a divine appointment prepared with love long before you ever arrived. And as you remain here with me, I want to speak to the part of your heart that has been carrying more than anyone realizes, not the part you show to the world, not the smile you wear when people ask if you are doing fine, not the version of you that keeps going, keeps working, keeps showing up because you feel you have no other choice. I am speaking to the hidden place within you, The place that feels tired in ways that rest alone cannot fix. The place that has been quietly holding burdens for far too long. My child, I know how exhausting it has been. I know there are days when you wake up already feeling drained before the day has even begun. I know there are moments when your body is present, but your heart feels far away, weighed down by things you cannot easily explain. You have carried responsibilities. You have carried expectations. You have carried disappointments that still linger in your thoughts long after everyone else has moved on. And little by little, those burdens have become heavier than you intended them to be. I see the silent struggle that no one applauds. I see the emotional fatigue that hides behind your daily routine. I see how often you tell yourself to stay strong, even when part of you is longing for permission to simply stop and breathe. There have been nights when your mind would not slow down. Nights when you replayed conversations, decisions, regrets, and worries over and over again. Nights when the room was quiet, yet your thoughts felt louder than ever. You tried to find peace, but your heart kept carrying questions without answers. You tried to move forward, but something inside you remained weary. I know about the hidden pain you rarely speak about, the disappointment that still stings when certain memories return, the wounds left behind by people who never understood how deeply their words affected you, the hopes that did not unfold the way you expected, the prayers that seemed to linger in silence, the doors that remained closed despite your effort, the moments when you wondered whether you were simply asking for too much. My child, I know there are times when you feel guilty for being tired because you believe you should be stronger. You tell yourself that others have bigger problems. You tell yourself that you should be grateful and move on, yet the exhaustion remains, the heaviness remains, the ache remains, and because you do not always know how to explain it, you carry it alone. But I see it. I see how hard you have been trying. I see how often you have carried the emotional weight of everyone around you while neglecting your own heart. I see the countless times you listened to others, encouraged others, supported others, while quietly wondering who would notice when you needed encouragement too. I see the tears that never fell because you forced yourself to remain composed. I see the fears you never voiced because you did not want to become a burden. I see the moments when you questioned your own worth because life did not unfold according to the plans you carefully held onto. And perhaps what has exhausted you most is not one single problem. Perhaps it is the accumulation of many small burdens, the constant pressure to keep going, the constant effort to stay hopeful, the constant battle of carrying uncertainty while trying to appear confident, the emotional fatigue that comes from holding everything together for so long. My beloved child, there is nothing about your struggle that is hidden from me. Nothing about your exhaustion surprises me. Nothing about your pain makes me turn away. I know the battles you fight inside your own thoughts. I know the moments when discouragement tries to convince you that nothing will ever change. I know how loneliness can exist even in crowded rooms. I know how a weary soul can continue functioning while secretly longing for relief. And right now, before anything else, before answers, before solutions, before the next step becomes clear, I simply want you to know this. I see you exactly as you are. I see the hidden burden. I see the silent struggle. I see the emotional fatigue. And I see the strength it took for you to keep moving forward, even when your heart felt tired. You are not invisible. You are not overlooked. And you have never carried a single one of these hidden battles beyond my sight. And when a burden remains on your heart for a long time, something else often begins to happen. The weight no longer stays outside of you. It slowly begins to shape the way you see yourself. It begins to influence the way you interpret your circumstances. It begins to whisper conclusions that feel true simply because you have heard them for so long. My child, there are beliefs that have quietly taken root within your thoughts, not because they came from truth, but because pain repeated them often enough to sound convincing. I know the fears you rarely speak about. I know the questions that rise when another disappointment arrives. I know the moments when you look at your life and wonder whether something is wrong with you. I know how discouragement can slowly transform into self-doubt, and I know how self-doubt can become a lens through which you begin to view everything. Perhaps without realizing it, you started believing that you were forgotten. Not because anyone directly told you so, but because the waiting felt so long, because certain prayers remained unanswered, because certain doors stayed closed, because some people walked away when you needed them most. Little by little, the thought appeared. Maybe I do not matter as much as I hoped. Maybe I was overlooked. Maybe everyone else is moving forward while I remain behind. My beloved child, that thought may have visited your mind many times, but it was never the truth. Yet when pain speaks often enough, it begins to sound familiar. And familiar voices are dangerous because they no longer shock us. We simply accept them. There is another lie that has been weighing heavily on your heart. The belief that you are not enough. Not successful enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough, not faithful enough, not capable enough. You compare yourself to people around you and quietly conclude that you fall short. You measure your journey against someone else's progress. You measure your struggles against someone else's victories. You measure your hidden wounds against someone's public smile. And because of that comparison, you begin to believe that you are somehow less valuable. I have seen the way fear has tried to disguise itself as wisdom. Fear tells you not to hope too much because disappointment might return. Fear tells you not to trust too deeply because you might get hurt again. Fear tells you not to dream because failure could follow. Fear tells you to lower your expectations so that your heart will not be broken. But what fear calls protection is often another form of captivity. I know how exhausting it has been to carry these thoughts. I know how difficult it is when the loudest battle is not happening around you but inside you. There are moments when nothing outwardly appears wrong, yet your mind feels trapped in endless questions. You question your worth, you question your future, you question whether things can ever truly change. And the more those questions repeat themselves, the more they begin to feel like facts instead of fears. But listen carefully, my child. Not every thought deserves your trust. Not every feeling deserves authority over your life. Not every conclusion formed during a painful season reflects reality. Some beliefs were born from disappointment, not truth. Some assumptions were shaped by wounds, not wisdom. Some fears grew stronger simply because they went unchallenged for too long. The enemy of your peace does not always begin with a dramatic attack. Sometimes it begins with a quiet suggestion, a whisper that says you are alone, a whisper that says you are forgotten, a whisper that says nothing good is waiting ahead, a whisper that says you will always be this tired, always be this broken, always be this uncertain. And after hearing that whisper enough times, part of you starts building your life around it. You stop expecting good things. You stop believing your story can change. You stop seeing yourself through eyes of compassion. My beloved child, I know exactly where those false beliefs have been hiding. I know the memories that gave them strength. I know the disappointments that fed them. I know the fears that continue to reinforce them. And I know how long you have been carrying them. That is why I am speaking to your heart now. Because before your circumstances can be seen differently, you must begin recognizing the lies that have quietly occupied space where truth was always meant to live. And whether you realize it yet or not, some of the exhaustion you carry today does not come from your circumstances alone. It comes from the heavy burden of believing things about yourself that I never said. And this is where I need you to pause and allow me to show you something that may surprise you. You have spent so much time looking at yourself through the lens of disappointment that you have forgotten there is another perspective. You have measured yourself by what has not happened, by what did not work out, by the mistakes you regret, by the opportunities you missed, and by the burdens you still carry. But my child, the way you see yourself is not the way I see you. The conclusions you have drawn about your life are not the conclusions I have drawn. While you have been focusing on what seems unfinished, I have been watching what is quietly being formed within you. While you have been looking at your struggles, I have been looking at your growth. While you have been counting your losses, I have been counting your victories, even the ones you never noticed. You see weakness where I see perseverance. You see delay where I see preparation. You see exhaustion where I see endurance. You see uncertainty where I see faith continuing to survive despite every reason to give up. My beloved child, you often think that strength looks like never struggling, never doubting, never feeling weary. But that is not how I measure strength. From my perspective, strength is continuing to take one more step, when your heart feels heavy. Strength is choosing kindness after disappointment. Strength is continuing to hope after seasons that made no sense. Strength is remaining tender when life tempted you to become hard. You call yourself tired. I call you resilient. You call yourself broken. I call you healing. You call yourself behind. I call you growing. You call yourself overlooked. I call you deeply seen. There have been moments when you believed you were standing still, but I was watching unseen growth take place beneath the surface. Think of a seed hidden beneath the soil. To the human eye, nothing appears to be happening. Days pass. Weeks pass. The ground looks unchanged. Yet beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is developing. Foundations are expanding. Growth is happening long before it becomes visible. In many ways, your life has been like that seed. You became discouraged because you could not see immediate results. You questioned your progress because outward evidence seemed limited. But I never measure growth only by what can be seen. I see the battles you won inside your heart. I see the fears you refused to surrender to completely. I see the prayers you continued to whisper when giving up would have been easier. I see the compassion you still offered others while carrying your own burdens. I see the faith that remained alive even when it felt small. My child, you have been judging your story from the middle of the chapter. You have been trying to determine the meaning of your life before the full picture has unfolded. But I can see what you cannot yet see. I can see where the road is leading. I can see the lessons becoming wisdom. I can see the tears becoming compassion. I can see the waiting becoming strength. I can see the hidden growth becoming visible in ways that will surprise even you. What you call a season of weakness has often been a season of becoming. What you call failure has often been a season of learning. What you call delay has often been a season of preparation. You have been so focused on what remains unfinished that you have overlooked how much has already changed within you. The person you are today is not the same person you were before these struggles began. There is more wisdom in you now, more compassion, more patience, more understanding, more dependence upon me, more courage than you realize. My beloved child, if you could see yourself through my eyes for even a moment, you would not see someone abandoned. You would not see someone forgotten. You would not see someone falling behind. You would see someone who has survived difficult seasons and continues moving forward. You would see someone whose roots have grown deeper than they know. You would see someone carrying hidden strength that has been forged through every challenge. And most importantly, you would see someone I have never stopped loving, never stopped guiding, and never stopped shaping for a purpose far greater than they can currently imagine. And perhaps this is the question that has lingered in your heart more than any other. Why has it taken so long? Why has the answer not arrived yet? Why does it seem as though others move ahead while you remain in a season of waiting? My beloved child, I know how difficult waiting can feel. I know how easy it is to mistake waiting for rejection. I know how tempting it is to believe that silence means nothing is happening. But I want you to see this season through a different lens. I want you to understand something that cannot always be seen from where you stand. Waiting is not always the absence of progress. Many times, waiting is where the deepest growth begins. Think about a seed resting beneath the soil. To the person standing above the ground, it appears inactive. Nothing seems to change. Nothing appears to move. Day after day, the surface remains the same. Yet beneath the earth, a remarkable process is unfolding. The seed is not wasting time. The seed is preparing. Roots are stretching deeper. Strength is being developed. Foundations are being established. The work that matters most happens before anyone sees the first sign of growth. My child, there have been seasons when you judged your life by what was visible. You looked for immediate evidence. You searched for outward signs that things were changing. And when you did not see them, discouragement tried to convince you that nothing was happening at all. But from my perspective, much has been happening. While you were waiting, your character was growing stronger. While you were waiting, your compassion was deepening. While you were waiting, your faith was learning to stand without needing constant proof. There are things that can only be formed during the process. There are lessons that cannot be rushed. There are depths of wisdom that can only develop through time. If a tree grows too quickly without deep roots, the first strong wind can uproot it. But a tree that spends time developing beneath the surface gains the ability to stand through seasons that would overwhelm something less established. In the same way, I have been growing roots within you. Roots of trust, roots of endurance, roots of humility, roots of dependence upon me. I know you wanted immediate answers. I know you wanted certain doors to open sooner. I know there were moments when you believed you were ready, and perhaps from your perspective you were. But I see the entire journey. I see what lies ahead. I see what you will need for the next season. And because I love you, I care not only about where you are today, but also about who you are becoming. There is a difference between receiving something and being prepared to carry it well. Many people desire the blessing, but few understand the preparation that makes the blessing sustainable. The process is not punishment. The waiting is not abandonment. The delay is not evidence that I have forgotten you. Sometimes the waiting exists because I am building capacity within you. Sometimes the waiting exists because your roots need to grow deeper than your current circumstances require. Sometimes the waiting exists because what is coming will require strength, wisdom, and maturity that can only be developed over time. My beloved child, even nature understands seasons. There is a season for planting, a season for growth, a season for blooming, a season for harvest. No farmer becomes angry with a field because fruit does not appear the day after planting. The process itself is part of the miracle. And in the same way, your life is moving through seasons that each serve a purpose. The season you are in now may not look like the season you hoped for. It may feel slower. It may feel quieter. It may even feel lonely at times. But do not mistake a hidden season for a wasted season. Some of the most important work I have ever done in a person's life happened when they thought nothing was changing. What feels like waiting to you often looks like preparation to me. What feels like delay often looks like protection. What feels like silence often looks like growth taking place beneath the surface. And one day, my child, you will look back and realize that the season you wanted to escape was actually the season that prepared you for everything that came next. And while so much of your attention has been focused on what you have been waiting for, there is another question that deserves your attention. Not what are you waiting to receive, but who are you becoming while you wait? My child, transformation often happens so gradually that it is difficult to recognize while it is taking place. Day by day, moment by moment, small changes occur within the heart, and because they happen quietly, they are often overlooked. Yet when enough time passes, the person standing at the end of the journey is no longer the same person who began it. There was a time when certain disappointments might have completely overwhelmed you. Now you carry a deeper resilience. There was a time when uncertainty felt unbearable. Now you have learned how to keep moving forward, even when every answer is not visible. There was a time when you believed strength meant having complete control. Now you are beginning to understand that true strength often looks like remaining faithful during uncertainty. You have not merely been passing through a season. A season has been passing through you, shaping parts of your character that could not have developed any other way. Consider the wisdom that has been forming within you. Wisdom is not simply information. Wisdom is what grows when experience meets reflection. It is what emerges after lessons have been lived rather than merely learned. The challenges you have faced have taught you things that success alone could never teach. You understand people more deeply now. You recognize struggles that once went unnoticed. You listen differently. You discern differently. You have become more aware of what truly matters and what does not. The things that once seemed urgent no longer carry the same weight. The things that once seemed insignificant have become precious. That is wisdom growing within you. And then there is resilience. Not the kind that appears impressive from the outside, but the quiet resilience that develops when a person refuses to stop moving forward. You may not feel resilient. You may still feel tired at times. Yet resilience is not measured by the absence of weariness. It is measured by the decision to continue despite it. Every difficult day you endured, every disappointment you survived, every setback that failed to define you, each one contributed to a strength that now lives within you. There is also patience being formed in ways you may not fully appreciate yet. Patience is one of the most misunderstood gifts of growth. Many people think patience means simply waiting longer, but patience is far more than that. Patience is learning how to remain steady while life unfolds at a pace you cannot control. Patience is discovering peace in the middle of unfinished chapters. Patience is trusting that meaningful things often require time, and as patience grows, something else grows alongside it: maturity. You begin to see life with greater perspective. You react less impulsively. You learn to distinguish temporary emotions from lasting truth. My beloved child, perhaps one of the most beautiful things being built within you is compassion. Pain has a way of opening the heart when it does not become bitterness. Because of your own struggles, you have become more gentle toward the struggles of others. Because you know what disappointment feels like, you are more careful with wounded hearts. Because you understand loneliness, you notice people who feel unseen. Because you have walked through difficult seasons, you carry a depth of empathy that cannot be manufactured. This compassion is not weakness. It is strength refined through experience. What is happening inside you matters more than you realize. Character lasts longer than circumstances. Wisdom remains long after seasons change. Resilience continues serving you when new challenges arise. Patience steadies you when life feels uncertain. Compassion allows you to become a source of comfort for others. These are not accidental developments. These are treasures being formed within you. And while you may still be looking ahead toward what is coming next, do not overlook what is already taking shape inside you. You are becoming someone with deeper roots, clearer perspective, stronger character, greater patience, and a more compassionate heart. The process has not simply been preparing something for you. The process has also been preparing you for something. And now, my child, after everything you have heard, after everything you have carried, after all the questions, the waiting, the growth, and the hidden transformation, you may find yourself asking a simple but important question. What should I do now? What is the next step? What am I supposed to do while I continue walking through this season? The answer is not as complicated as you may think. It is not a list of impossible tasks. It is not a burden designed to exhaust you further. It is an invitation, a gentle invitation. An invitation to release what you were never meant to carry alone. For too long you have been gripping things tightly because you feared what would happen if you let go. You have held on to worries because you thought worrying would somehow protect you. You have held on to disappointment because part of you believed you needed to remember every hurt in order to avoid being hurt again. You have held on to control because uncertainty felt frightening. Yet the tighter you hold these things, the heavier they become. My beloved child, there comes a moment when healing begins, not because circumstances instantly change, but because a person finally stops carrying burdens that were never theirs to carry. This is why I invite you to let go. Let go of the belief that you must have every answer before you can move forward. Let go of the pressure to figure everything out on your own. Let go of the endless need to predict every outcome. You were never created to carry the future on your shoulders. You were created to walk one step at a time. There is also something else I gently invite you to release: the pain you continue to relive. I know there are memories that still ache when they return. I know there are moments you wish had unfolded differently. I know there are people whose words left wounds deeper than they ever realized. But carrying those wounds indefinitely does not protect your heart. It only keeps your heart tied to places where growth can no longer happen. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the pain never existed. It does not mean excusing what was wrong. It means choosing not to allow yesterday's wounds to continue controlling today's peace. And then there is trust, perhaps the most difficult invitation of all. Trust is not pretending you understand everything. Trust is not denying your fears. Trust is choosing to continue walking even when every detail has not been revealed. Trust is believing that purpose still exists when the path feels unclear. Trust is allowing your heart to rest even when circumstances remain unfinished. My child, surrender is often misunderstood. Many people think surrender is weakness. They think surrender means giving up, but true surrender is neither of those things. True surrender is the courage to stop fighting battles that cannot be won through worry. It is the courage to place uncertainty into hands stronger than your own. It is the courage to release control and discover that peace was waiting on the other side of that release. You do not need to force every door open. You do not need to solve every mystery. You do not need to carry every burden. What I am inviting you to do is simpler yet deeper. Open your hands. Release what has become too heavy. Forgive where bitterness has taken root. Surrender where fear has taken control. Trust where uncertainty remains. Let go of the need to carry what was never yours to manage alone. There is freedom in that decision. There is healing in that decision. There is peace in that decision. Not because every problem instantly disappears, but because your heart no longer remains chained to the impossible task of controlling everything. The next step is not striving harder. The next step is not exhausting yourself further. The next step is allowing yourself to release, to forgive, to surrender, and to trust. And sometimes the most powerful transformation begins the moment a weary heart finally decides to loosen its grip and take that step. And once a heart begins to release what it was never meant to carry, something remarkable starts to happen. Space is created for hope to return. Not the fragile kind of hope that depends on perfect circumstances, but the quiet kind that begins to rise when you realize that your story is not finished. My child, there is a future ahead of you that you cannot fully see yet. And perhaps that is what makes this season difficult. Human eyes naturally want certainty. They want clear answers, visible outcomes, and detailed maps. Yet so much of life unfolds one step at a time. What lies ahead is rarely revealed all at once. Instead, it appears gradually, like the first light of dawn slowly spreading across the horizon. There are chapters of your story that have not yet been written. There are conversations that have not yet happened. There are opportunities that have not yet arrived. There are moments of restoration that have not yet unfolded. And because you cannot see them today, it can be easy to assume they do not exist. But the absence of visibility is not the absence of possibility. Think back to moments in your life that once seemed impossible to imagine. There were seasons you believed would never end, yet they did. There were challenges you thought would overwhelm you, yet you made it through them. There were blessings you could not have predicted, moments of joy that arrived unexpectedly, doors that opened in ways you never planned. Life has always contained surprises beyond your ability to foresee. The future remains hidden not because there is nothing ahead, but because each step is meant to be discovered in its proper time. My beloved child, there is a difference between being stuck and being in transition. Many people mistake one for the other. They assume that because everything has not changed yet, nothing is changing at all. But transitions often happen quietly. A seed becoming a tree experiences countless changes before anyone notices new branches. A new chapter begins long before the title is visible. A breakthrough often starts beneath the surface before it can be recognized from the outside. That is why I want you to resist the temptation to define your future by your current circumstances. Today is not the final chapter. This season is not the complete story. What you see right now is only a small portion of a much larger journey. There are possibilities ahead that your present perspective cannot fully measure. There are opportunities waiting beyond bends in the road you have not reached yet. There are relationships that may bring encouragement. There are lessons that may unlock new confidence. There are moments of restoration that may heal places you once believed would always ache. There are fresh beginnings that may emerge from situations that currently appear uncertain. I am not asking you to predict exactly what is coming. You do not need to know every detail. In fact, much of your peace will come when you stop demanding complete certainty before allowing yourself to hope again. Hope does not require a detailed blueprint. Hope simply allows room for the possibility that tomorrow may hold something better than today. My child, the future is not merely about what you will receive. It is also about who you will become. New opportunities may come. New doors may open. New chapters may begin. But perhaps the greatest restoration will be the restoration of your perspective, your confidence, your peace, and your willingness to believe that life still holds good things ahead. There is more beyond this season than you currently realize. More growth, more purpose, more opportunities to learn, to serve, to connect, to heal, and to flourish. What lies ahead may not look exactly as you imagined, but that does not make it any less meaningful. Sometimes the most beautiful chapters are the ones we never would have written for ourselves. So lift your eyes a little higher, my child. not to force certainty, but to make room for possibility. The road ahead is not empty. The story ahead is not blank. A new chapter is forming beyond the horizon, and even now, possibilities you cannot yet see are quietly moving toward their appointed time. And now, my beloved child, as this moment draws to a close, I do not want you to leave carrying pressure. I do not want you to leave carrying fear. I do not want you to leave feeling as though you must immediately solve every problem or understand every detail of the road ahead. Instead, I want you to carry something far more valuable. I want you to carry peace. The kind of peace that does not come from having all the answers. The kind of peace that remains steady even when some questions remain unanswered. The kind of peace that grows when your heart remembers that you do not walk through life alone. Today you have been reminded of things that your soul needed to hear. You have been reminded that hidden burdens do not go unnoticed. You have been reminded that the exhausting thoughts you have carried are not always telling you the truth. You have been reminded that growth can happen beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. You have been reminded that waiting does not mean your story has stopped moving forward. You have been reminded that wisdom, resilience, patience, and compassion are being formed within you even now. And you have been reminded that there are possibilities ahead that your present circumstances cannot fully reveal. Hold on to these truths. Return to them when fear tries to speak louder. Return to them when discouragement tries to convince you that nothing is changing. Return to them when you feel tempted to judge your entire future based on one difficult season. My child, seasons change. Chapters turn. Circumstances evolve. But what has been built within you remains. The strength developed through hardship remains. The wisdom gained through experience remains. The patience formed through waiting remains. The compassion shaped through struggle remains. These gifts become part of who you are. No difficult season is capable of taking them away. As you continue forward, be gentle with yourself. Growth is not always loud. Healing is not always dramatic. Progress is not always obvious. Some of the most meaningful changes happen quietly, one day at a time. Do not rush the process. Do not condemn yourself for still having questions. Do not become discouraged because everything is not resolved yet. A heart can be healing while still feeling tender. A person can be growing while still feeling uncertain. A new chapter can be forming long before the first page is visible. Allow yourself the grace to keep walking one step at a time. Breathe deeply. Release what does not belong on your shoulders. Hold loosely what you cannot control. Treasure what is good in today. Trust that tomorrow will arrive with its own provision, its own opportunities, and its own mercies. Let peace settle where anxiety once lived. Let hope remain where disappointment once lingered. Let gratitude grow where frustration once took root. And may your heart become lighter as you remember that you do not need to carry everything alone. My blessing for you is not that every challenge instantly disappears. My blessing for you is that you continue walking with courage when challenges arise, that your mind finds rest when uncertainty appears, that your heart remains open when life invites you to trust again, that your spirit remains steady when circumstances fluctuate, that wisdom guides your decisions, patience steadies your steps, resilience strengthens your resolve, and compassion continues shaping the way you see both yourself and others. And when difficult days come, as they sometimes will, may you remember this simple truth. A season is not a destiny, a delay is not a denial, a struggle is not your identity. A difficult chapter is not the end of the story. The road ahead may still contain twists you cannot see, but you do not need to fear what you cannot yet understand. Walk forward with peace. Walk forward with hope. Walk forward knowing that growth has been taking place even when it was hidden. Walk forward believing that purpose still exists beyond what your eyes can currently see. And above all, carry this truth with you wherever you go. You are not defined by what you have been through, but by who you are becoming.